In dogfighting, he is known as a successful dogman. And that's the third part of the interview with Mr. Hughes, the famous mountain man.
And Zebo won the fight in 23 minutes. Dave and Roger Adams saw Zebo the day he fought in Alabama. Dave looked at him, and pointed to his back and asked me, "Why doesn't he have any scars there?" I answered, "What I do know is that no dog has hit your ass." He called me after the fight, wanting to buy Zebo. And I told him I didn't want to sell the dog. So he made me an offer. And I said an amount, which I thought he wouldn't pay on the dog. And thus ended the matter. The next morning I was having breakfast. When I looked out the window, I saw Dave Adams pulling up in the backyard. And he had come for Zebo. He wanted to get Zebo off the chain by himself, right after I saw him stepping away from his chain. Zebo nearly bit him and kicked him out. I put Zebo inside their car. They didn't bring a carrying case. When they left, Zebo had already jumped into the front seat and was looking out the window. I was wondering if they would make it to Ohio with the perfect face. Mr. Hughes shook his head, chuckling, and continued. They bet against the greaser dog, which I believe I won 4 times. And there was a good story behind it, each side trying to define the other side. I was supposed to watch this fight, but my car broke down and I drove home. At 3 in the morning the phone rang and it was Dave Adams. Because of the time I thought Zebo had given up. He said, "You won't believe what old Zebo did." And before he could say anything else, I told him, "Well, I like it, send it to me if you don't want it." Then he told me that Zebo moved up to the heaviest category and won the fight. He won the fight with just under 2 hours. Afterwards, Zebo bit the son of Lord Dave Adams, and injured the boy. I saw the boy's face, and really Zebo bit hard. So Dave Adams sold Zebo to a guy named Johnson. Zebo won 2 more matches after that. One against one of his nephews, Cush's son. He won that fight in 18 minutes. Zebo was the strongest dog I've ever seen. He was an excellent chest biter. No one managed to get Zebo out of the ring. And if he entered the ring against him, surely the dog would be so weak, due to the damage Zebo had done, that he would not do anything more against him. Zebo was swinging his opponent's front paws so much that the dog seemed not to touch the ground. He would adapt to any style of fighter. If the dog was the mouth-biting style, he sure as hell wouldn't be around very long. Zebo would bite so hard that the opponent would choose to try another fighting style. When I got Zebo, his teeth were flat, but they were so long and thick, it looked like my little finger, and that's no exaggeration. He would kill a dog without a drop of blood. I don't remember seeing much blood in any of his fights. I don't believe there would be much competition in Zebo's fight with Greaser if Greaser didn't have such a weight advantage over Zebo. They say he survived and was retired to production, and maybe he was. But I never heard from him again, or any of his offspring. Zebo would bite you or he would bite a stranger. It wasn't always, but there were times when he wasn't friendly. If when you got close to him, his eyes were wide and round. The only way you wouldn't get bitten was to get away from him. When he bit me, he didn't bite and let go. He would bite you like he was fighting, he would grab and shake. A young man from South Carolina was here once looking at some of his friends' dogs. I think he weighed about 120 kilos, he was very big and muscular. We started looking at the bulldogs. He went right on Zebo. At the time Zebo was on the chain, close to the apple tree. I gave a shout. "Don't touch that dog, he will bite you." "Oh," he answered me. "I live by training dogs, and not. There is a dog that I cannot pet." So I said, "Well, that one you can't pet." He looked at Zebo and said, "This puppy is cute, look how his tail is wagging." I said, "He's just anticipating how much he'll enjoy biting you." Me and the other guys, we continued up the hill towards the other dogs. We haven't walked 10 feet before we hear a man scream. The man was holding his arm up, and Zebo was hanging onto his arm, and rattling. I had to get a wood to get Zebo out. I believe there was no way for that man to escape Zebo. Even though he was big, surely Zebo would take him down. We all laughed and Mrs. Hughes spoke. Zebo was our house dog before we had kids. He was driving with us. I would put him in the back seat, but he would always go in the front. He would jump on my lap in front, and put his head on the window. He kept clicking his jaws, the same way they do when they're excited or nervous. Sometimes he would scare me by doing this, with his head close to my face, doing this and shaking. I threw him in the back seat, but he jumped forward again. One day we were in the car, I was throwing Zebo backwards and he was jumping forward. Lester got so mad at both of us that he slammed on the brakes, turned around, and drove home. He told us both to get out of the car, and he went alone. You couldn't reach out your hand to touch me before Zebo caught your finger. Mr. Hughes continues. I was walking with him in the parking lot before the fight in Alabama. Junior Bush came over to shake William Cable's hand. When their hands met, Zebo took their hand, didn't press too hard, took it and released it. Mr. Hughes asked his wife. "Remember what fight was that?" "The one I brought Zebo home and put him in the barn room. And he tore everything up and ate the phone." Ms. Hughes replied. "I don't remember, but I remember when you brought him from a fight, with his head and eyes swollen, his head like a melon and his eyes were almost closed. We had a black kitten, he was somewhere in the house. Lester carried Zebo inside. We thought Zebo couldn't see anything, but as soon as Lester sat him down, Zebo got up. Zebo was chasing the cat, and I was chasing him, trying to catch him before he caught the cat." Mr. Hughes added. "Another time, we were coming back from a fight with Zebo. Everyone was asleep except the driver. We didn't think Zebo would do anything because he was injured, so we thought he would rest. When we woke up, Zebo had chewed the leash and eaten part of it. He also chewed on my belt while I was sleeping and ate a part of it. William Cable was finding it funny, until he started looking for his sweater coat to wear. He had an expensive sweater, the ones with leather patches on the elbows. Zebo ate all the leather and the collar too. William stopped laughing instantly when he found the sweater. Once I hadn't bet too much on one of Zebo's fights. I gave all my money to Evelyn to gamble. I knew nobody was going to bet against me, and you know how people are. If they see a dumb woman trying to bet, they'll take the bet." Mrs. Hughes continued. "I would never bet on a fight, and I didn't know how to bet. Everyone was placing bets, and I just stood there. Zebo won in less than half an hour, and I hadn't bet anything. We asked Mr. Hughes what Zebo produced while he was his. And in his opinion, what would be the reason that Zebo, was known for not producing well. He replied, "I didn't breed the Zeebo, with no bitches out, while he was here. But I came across 2 or 3 bitches from here. I bred him to a Bruce King bitch, and we had some good dogs. One was poisoned, one hanged himself, and 2 accidentally drowned. I believe they would have been winners. I crossed him with lonesome, exemplary dogs were born that I could never find. They were all Zeebo's size. Gator was one of them, and he was the most like Zeebo. I put him to fight with his brother, Blue, who was also a good dog. Gator ended up with Blue, he literally ripped off part of his snout, teeth, bones and all. Blue didn't recover and had to put him down. I stopped with Gator, because he broke free and grabbed a chained dog by the river. I had a broken leg at the time and I couldn't get there fast enough. Gator broke his teeth in that accident. I believe there was another good one in the litter, I named it Little Zeebo. It was a very good puppy that I sold to someone near Lenoir, North Carolina. But I lost touch with this one. I got 5 Zeebo males that I thought would be really good dogs. But they never reached their feet. Unfortunately, they were a good percentage of cold dogs, who couldn't take a bite.
That was the third part of the interview with Dogman, Mr. Hughes, the mountain man. My name is Rodolpho Luiz, and I invite everyone to enjoy the knowledge of this wonderful breed. Subscribe so you don't miss the next video. God bless you all. I went.